We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C. this week, you may have seen the news. They passed a pretty significant tax reform bill. On Tuesday, the House and Senate both voted on it, and some minor tweaking in the Senate version of the bill led to the House needing to vote on it again Wednesday, and eventually sending the bill to President Trump for his final approval. We don't have a signature on that bill yet, but I would assume he's going to sign it. That's a bet I feel comfortable making. Phil, we were talking before we pressed record on this, and looking at the broader text of the bill as it stands right now, it looks like farmers that are going to be able to report income, which is a separate story, but farmers that can report income are going to get a tax break on it.
They're going to get a tax break, and they're going to get a significant tax break. It's pretty simple math. You've got a 20% deduction, a brand new 20% deduction on pass-through income. That's income through sole proprietorships, partnerships, S-corps. So you get a 20% deduction right off the top, up to $315,000, and then you'll get lower tax rates on the 80%. And then you got a higher standard deduction. So I mean, the situation is going to vary, how many children, where you live and so forth, but basically in terms of the lower tax rates, and especially this 20% deduction, you're going to pay less, and you're going to pay significantly less.
So a lot of things for agriculture to cheer in this bill, a lot of things that they were pushing for, a lot of things they ended up getting. But one thing that the industry was really pushing for at the beginning of the talks was complete repeal of the estate tax. That's something that ended up not being put in the final version of the bill. What did get put in was a doubling of the exemption, and it's up to $22 million now for a couple. But Phil, something that is to watch in really a few years down the road, that doubling of the exemption expires after 8 years.
It does. All of the individual tax provisions, and that includes the 20% pass-through deduction that's new, all of these expire after 2025. That was put in for budget reasons, to comply with the Senate rules and not increase the deficit after this 10-year window, but it creates some uncertainty, and probably not a big deal for the individual taxpayer. Don't generally worry about what you're going to be paying in 2026. Mm-hmm. Most people are more concerned about what they'll be paying in 2018 or on their 2017 taxes. But for businesses, it is a significant drawback, and that there is that planning. Also probably has some, with other business decisions, it does introduce some uncertainty. The thinking on the part of Republicans is that while you don't want to create uncertainty on the corporate side, it's easier on the individual side, because the assumption is that a future Congress would not dare let all these tax benefits, these lower rates, and so forth expire. But you're going to have a cliff, and a reason to keep talking to your member of Congress, and probably, not to be cynical, but it'll probably keep the campaign contributions coming years down the road for the next few years.
So that is an important point to make. I mean, in the legislation, these things do expire after 8 years, but there's always the possibility of extending them through some kind of legislative action from a future Congress.
Yeah, and you mentioned the estate tax, and it's very important. They did make a major move. They doubled the current exemption, which is around 5.5 this year anyway. It's indexed for inflation, but right now it's about $5.5 million for an individual, $11 million for a couple. They doubled that, and that doubling stays in effect for that 8-year period, and that's going to exempt virtually every farm. There may be a few that get up in that territory. Still, if you're in your 50s or early 60s, you're looking, you have that uncertainty 8 years down the road, and so if it's estate planning and the estate planning costs that you're worried about and aggravated by, then this doesn't go far enough probably.
So be sure to check back with Agri-Pulse in 8 years, and we'll be sure to keep you apprised of updates on that policy. But want to talk about things that are a little more in the immediate future before we let you go here. That being, obviously, 2018 looks to be the year of the Farm Bill, to the surprise, really, of no one in the agriculture policy community. That was something that folks have been eyeing for a long time. But, Phil, it's looking like Farm Bill conversations obviously will happen in 2018 and will likely happen pretty early in 2018.
Yeah, there's a very, we've got a short window. It's a midterm election year. Congress really doesn't get much done after July. And so in order to get a major piece of legislation like this Farm Bill, you've got to begin very early. The committees know that. Right now the plan is to move pretty quickly. There's talk about January. That seems like a real stretch, but certainly February and March, it's going to be really busy around here. Mm-hmm. Whether they can get it done in 2018, that's another question. But that's certainly, there's no question that's the goal. Some things have to line up in terms of getting some fixes for cotton and dairy ahead of time, possibly creating some new baseline or funding for the bill. That's going to be an issue in January, but we'll see. A long way to go, but it's going to be, you're right, year of the Farm Bill, 2018.
Now, yes, so on paper, they have until the end of September to get their actions done, get something sent to the president, and have him sign it. Political realities may end up saying something different about when they actually will need to get that completed, whether or not we see an extension, which House Ag Committee Chair Mike Conaway has been adamant for several months and years now that he does not want to see extensions of the Farm Bill. He wants to see something done on time.
They never do.
Yeah.
But they always seem to wind up having to do it.
No.
And we come back to talking about permanent, we may be here a year from now talking about permanent law, and what the dairy prices are going to skyrocket in 2019. But certainly the chairman of the committees are not going to talk about that now. They definitely want to get this done. But it's going to be a challenge. It's always a challenge, and money is an issue. A lot of expiring programs that they need to fund, and demands for more conservation commodity spending as well. So it'll be a challenge, but it's certainly the goal on both sides of Capitol Hill.
And something else to watch in the early months of 2018, and perhaps and likely as early as January, some tax extenders language that could be coming from both the House and the Senate, things that were maybe not addressed or were for sure not addressed in the comprehensive tax reform bill that was just passed. Things, including some things that are very important to agriculture, could be addressed in a tax extenders package that could have some legs in the month of January.
Yeah, there's that little thing, the $1 a gallon credit for biodiesel. The hope is to get that revived or retroactive to this year, 2017, and extend it through 2018, so that we can come back a year again and talk about this all over again. There's some other biofuel benefits in there as well, but yeah.
So I think that's going to do it for this week's Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. We certainly appreciate you tuning in this week as well as throughout the year for our Agri-Pulse coverage. I know Phil and I are both looking forward to celebrating Christmas with our families, so whatever you're celebrating this holiday season, we hope you enjoy it with people you care about. But I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.